Oh my goodness. Seriously, I have to just do it. It's like I can tell myself I don't have to think about things that don't matter.
I was designed to do those things. How the hell does this guy know this about me?
It's impossible to not see.
When Dan read for my sister, she was like, he's psychic. She's like, how does he know that?
Yes.
She's like, it's human design, guys. Like, it's just a testimony of how legit it is.
Seriously, Danny was like FBI or CIA. He's like, how the hell does this guy know this about me?
Having my chart read, there were just thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, that's me.
This man is reading me and I've never met him before.
I was in the midst of one of the biggest emotional waves I've ever been in my life, and he saved my life.
It seems like everybody has the same reaction. It's that aha moment, and they want to find out more. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Human Design Advantage podcast. My name is Jen, and decoding the matrix for us is Danny Guru.
Jen, how are you, hon? It's good to
I'm
see
doing
you.
Great. How are you?
Hanging right in there. Really excited about
Fantastic.
tonight's topic. It's going to be a good one.
It is going to be a good one. We're going to be diving into the human design of Gregg Braden. But before we do that, you guys know the drill. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and follow the show. And today's episode it's April 19th, 2023.
What number is this, by the way?
I don't know on the Wednesday nights. I stopped numbering them.
All right. We've got to be up over 30 or 40.
Yeah, it's in the 40s or the 50s.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited to do Gregg Braden. I've been watching him for a long time. I've sent you some of his clips before. Have you seen much of Gregg? At least some here and there. He's a sort of staple.
Oh, I know Gregg. Yeah, he's somebody that I after I had my awakening that started coming up in my etheric field. Yes, so I know I'm very familiar with his work, and I resonate with a lot of what he says.
Nice. Yeah. Well, I resonate with it too, and I really got pulled into what he was doing, and especially around the heart chakra and his awareness that we're, connected there to our heart. And so sooner or later, I knew I would get around to doing Gregg's chart.
You should check out Heart Math.
Heart Math.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard of it.
Yep. Well, it's where they have scientifically proven that the heartbeat, the resonance that it projects is attached to our etheric field.
Well, it is, and
Yes.
he spotted that, and he started decoding stuff and putting things together. And so I thought it would be nice to basically pull up his chart, and I had to pull 2 times on him just in case. And so part of today's episode will be determining which profile is he. I'm pretty sure he's the 3-5, but there is a 4-6, and because the chart changes throughout the day. And just to bring everyone's eye back to what are we looking at when we see a chart? This is our genetic matrix as it relates to the traits and how we will behave and the things we do, think, and whatever up on the surface. It's not our genetic matrix in its totality, like a matrix that, determines hair color, eye color, things like that. That's just, genetics do a lot. One of the things they do is this, and this is what bubbles up to the surface. And the reason I thought Gregg would find this so interesting if he does see it is because all of these activations in red and black, these are all the hexagrams of the Chinese I Ching. And if anyone's looked closely at it, the Chinese I Ching is an exact mathematical match to our human genome. So It's like that's where a lot of this sort of started and came from. Now it doesn't really matter because it just works on the surface and we were able to read it out. But looking at Gregg's chart, my goodness, look at all that information going energized to the spleen. And that was there all day long.
Yep.
This
All
was
of
here.
this.
Yes, it was there.
All
the
of
whole
these channels. I don't think I've ever seen that.
I've never seen all 3 of them. Yep. There are some really unique charts where it's like something really just stands out.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe, when we were at Camp D, he has a chart that really stands out. I'll send it to you one day. It's incredible. But anyways, all of this goes to the spleen. Now we remember, so he's a generator. Boom, energy. So Gregg's got all this energy to keep going at what he's doing. If this is the right time around 4 a.m., somewhere between 4 and 7 a.m., he's a 3-5 profile. And it's actually longer than that. It's all the way up to almost 9, actually. To He's a 3-5 profile. So he's a generator that's designed to trial and error things. Deeply inquisitive is the third line. They keep bumping into what they're going to try next.
Yes.
And there's Gregg. He never has a bad day in his life. I've never seen Gregg look disheveled. He's a 5th line attractive person. He's always attracting the projection of others, if this is the right profile.
Right.
Yeah. And so he does that on his show. He does that all the time. He's always presentable, looks just right. He's got the right thing going out. He's, you know, he plays the part of the 3-5. But as this generator with all of this stuff going to the spleen, it means Gregg is deeply, intuitively, judgmentally, personally, instinctually, I'm getting them all, aware of his moment-to-moment truth. And so every time he ignored that as a younger man, and even till today, he gets this, I knew it. It's so profound in this design. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Like the things he shouldn't have done. And if he's got a third line personality, that's designed to bump into things. To basically make bonds and choose when to release those bonds, to sustain at things. Gregg has sustained at his way. And I remember when he was going to school, he had said that something along the lines of he and certain, or maybe it was at work after college where they started to diverge, and he broke the bond with them and sustained at his course that he went on. He's really designed to do this. Then this profile that leads to this, that leads to his incarnation cross, the cross of service.
The cross of service.
Something really stands out about this cross of service. I mean, like strikingly so. This cross of service says, it says, I logically must come up with the answers that help the collective.
And that's exactly what he does.
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
What show were you talking about earlier? Because I started watching him.
Well, he's got a couple, actually.
Yeah, he had Missing Links on
Missing
Gaia.
Links. Yep, Gaia. He had oh God, they're escaping me. I've seen them all practically. He had it's a version of Unsolved Mysteries. God, I'm sorry, bro. I butchered that. It's whatever. He's solving ancient mysteries or ancient secrets or something like that. And lots of other things. He's gone into so many things. He's a systems god. He's a geologist, minored in other things about biology, and he's college educated. He's a smart man. Worked for the government for a little while, and basically that wasn't for him. That didn't speak to service to the 9-centered being. When he said he left, I was like, oh, we got to look at your chart, because something in you intuitively kept telling you, not for me, not for me. And he generated a response that got his butt out of there.
Yes.
That wouldn't have been easy for him. He's got this channel of maturation. I mean, I shouldn't say wouldn't have been easy. Ultimately, it became easy. However, it took a while. So this channel of maturation, it goes from 53 to 42 between the sacral and the root center. Yeah.
Yep, this one.
This channel of maturation is all wherever there's a channel between two centers. That's what we call a life force. And that life force just means it's something really consistent inside the body graph that we can keynote. And so this channel of maturation says, I'm going to bite into something. I'm hungry to start. Gregg knows, because gate 52 is the hungry to start part. You know, just wants to start, like something new, wants to get in the experience, deeply experiential. Please let me have it. It says, let's dig into this. The hunger to start, dog on a chain. You know, don't chain up this dog, because it's just going to constantly be, you know, pulling against it. But unconscious, the red, gate 42, that touches it, that then makes the life force, that's unconscious in him. And this is the gate of where what you started, you have the sacral sustaining ability to power through the beginning, through the middle, to the end. Get to the end of the experience and do so in the now. Stay in the experience. When the experience is over, reflect on it. So every time Gregg would have had expectations about what he wanted out of the experience, bam, he stopped being in it and didn't get the same thing out of it. And every time, and he would have recognized that all that splenic awareness of his, he would have at his age, he would come to see this as, no, that's not best for me. You know, I want to finish what I start, or I want to get into the things that I started and want to get into. But, you know, that's now. Back in the beginning, obviously that would have been something he waffled between. Do I do that or not? Other thing about this channel, I guess, would just be that it's a format channel. So everything in the body graph says I pay homage to this format. So this channel of maturation, channel of cycles, this channel of throwing the vehicle, the body, into the experience in a sustained way through to the end is something that is of service. So when I can't promise anything, but I would imagine back when he was starting to move this way, in one direction, away from what would have been the college laureate format of government work, whatever it was, using his brain and so forth, he would have been, they would have ridiculed him. Some would have ostracized him. Some, you know, there was words said and stuff, but the 3-5, you know, just sustains. And he took it, so something called on him, and then he took it from the beginning, and he's in the middle of it still. My guess is this is where he ends. This is his little life process here, is to do this thing where he's out in public. This is his thing. So this was the experience he would have always wanted to mature. When I say always, he wouldn't have known when he was a younger kid. Probably working for the government in the very beginning was exciting. Oh my God, I have credentials. They gave me a gun. I doubt they gave him a gun, but you know, whatever. Right. But sooner or later, as a younger man, then the novelty wears off and his spirit kicks in. And remember the 3 aspects that Gregg is always talking about, which he has in spades. The spirit of myself. Is my spirit full? Do I feel in communion with my surroundings, my people, my tribe? Is there purpose to any of this? You know, are we all moving in the right direction? Is our love being poured into the right direction?
Yes.
He answers all of these with a yes at this point in time. You know, essentially, I'm not talking about the mundane day to day, you know, car stop working, and no, he's not loving that, but whatever. But anyways, this incarnation cross, Jennifer, these gates, 52 and 58 on the sun, earth, and the personality. And then 17 and 18 on the other side in the sun, earth design.
Oops.
These are all collective understanding gates. The cross of service, the service it brings is to bring new understanding and or concretize the current understanding. Or something.
He's definitely doing that.
Oh my God, that's all he does, really. And
yes, that is.
He's relentless at it, and people project upon him to do that. This is why I think he's this 3-5 profile.
True.
And he's very strategic about all of that. He's got the same variable that Ra Uru Hu has, the founder of the human design system, the arrows.
I saw the arrows.
Yeah, so he's mostly strategic. Look at that. He's busy. Yes. He's out doing his digs, his archaeological digs. He's out checking into the things. His brain system is actively devouring the information, you know, down a certain course. His personality is very strategic. He sort of gets a sense of what it's going to do with all of that, you know, after it's as himself, which is a generator in response to things. But he's got one right-facing arrow, and that's his view. That means his whole periphery is wide open. Doesn't mean he can't focus, because it's about the difference is either focused if it's left or peripheral if it's right. That means his view of his surroundings, his view of the life that he's in is very peripheral, and it's taking in everything. So chances are something in that first government job actually led him to this. Think about it. I don't know that I doubt coming out of the whole college thing, going into that, he may have been in touch with certain esoterics and things.
Oh, most likely, yes.
But in that environment, you know, you're conditioned to be like, well, prove it, right? And if you can't, then you don't.
Well, in the government, there's a lot of that goes around. So
you're right, Jen. I know exactly what you're saying. They do, but it's localized. That's not throughout all of it, you know, especially in the college environment. It's like
true.
They don't teach Chinese I Ching in Stanford University or wherever he went.
Depends what fraternity you're in.
Fraternity is one thing. That's true.
So
That is way true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Along with rituals and everything, now that you mention it, right? That's funny.
well, that's where it starts. What was that movie that came out years ago about the college kids who were getting recruited into a fraternity? It was based off the Skull and Bones. So
I don't really recall. The fraternity one I'm remembering is Animal House.
was what?
Animal House.
No.
Yeah, this was after that. Nope. Not sure. But anyways, all of these gates being in
The Skulls is the name of it, actually.
the skulls.
Mm-hmm.
Probably heard of it. Chances are I've seen it, Jen.
It came out in 2000.
I see lots of movies, but I don't remember the names. But anyways, you take these gates of service and apply a peripheral view to it. And that periphery means it's taking in everything, every blade of grass, every sound, every smell, every vibration off of someone's aura is within his purview. Now, he doesn't necessarily able to make sense of, apply words to all of those things, but they're going into him. He's pulling it in. So in these moments of generative response, my theory would be, my guess looking at this chart is, throughout his college, maybe starting at a young age, but by the time he got into some kind of government or contracting with, or however that worked, and through his archaeological digs especially, something came to him that in that responsive moment, intuitively with all that splenic awareness, pulled out of him something he viewed through his periphery that said, time to change direction. Time to there's new truth there's a new sheriff in town. It's not just ones and zeros on computer code anymore. Not just ones and zeros. And he did stuff with computer stuff as well. God, I hope I have that right. I remember him talking about archaeology, but I also remember him talking about computer sciences and code and stuff. So maybe it was doubled up on that.
I wouldn't surprise me coming from him.
So there he is pulling in everything. His surroundings give him the next thing he's going to do. He's open emotionally with one gate as a theme. So the gate 37 off the solar plex center, where our emotional awareness is waking up on this planet, that neural network. So Gregg knows how to be friendly. He's always unconsciously, friendliness is what shows up out of gate 37.
Mm-hmm.
And emotionally, he's open to that. What else?
Yeah, wide open. Except for the 37.
Yep. That becomes his predominant theme in all of that. Now, there's something else Gregg was uniquely in tune with. He's in tune with that. We're opening up new levels of consciousness. We're opening up. And what I would love to point to is the fact that this solar plex center, right, Jen, half of us are open, half of us are defined, give or take 1% at any given time. And of that half of us that are open, we're open to the entirety of the emotional wave. And that's what's waking up. And those of us who are defined are experiencing this emotional wave.
Yes.
And the missing links was one of the ones he did. Yeah. And one of the missing links, as I watched the whole series, I remember posting notes on there. One of the missing links that he would have been looking for is this whole aspect that this is a brand new awareness adding to our consciousness field. That was one of the things I sort of wanted to get to him. This neural network that represents the solar plex, the kidneys, pancreas, gut, this neural network that's awakening inside our gut is in fact awakening. And it's a brand new awareness that you're well aware of. You're defined. What do you know about it? You get smarter over time.
Yes, I do. And I know that it's a signpost when the energy flows through. It does take you to a deeper level of awareness once the wave passes. So it's been very interesting to observe and learn more about the emotional center and what all it brings.
Now, the emotional wave, go ahead.
The way that I view it is the emotional awareness is really bringing in more of the divine feminine energy, which is emotional. where the divine masculine is more strategic. So we need that balance within the collective, because universally that's just how it's supposed to work in harmony. So I think with the emotional awareness, it's helping bring that balance to the energy, because we've been out of balance collectively.
The imbalance, indeed, it is, but we're imbalanced by it because we're not awake to it. And so when you became aware of your wave, you became aware that there's an emotional process that it goes up and down, cycling between feels good and doesn't feel so good. And it's a chemistry inside your body, as one would expect, because this is all genetic. It's our chemistry.
And sometimes it's not your emotional wave.
Right. And that's
that was the relieving thing for me.
To find out the things that weren't yours, right?
Yeah, that, this is a very tricky place to be. And a lot of people don't understand how the mind works. And when you wake up and you are just blue or feeling funky and you don't quite know exactly what it is, you immediately jump into the mind to associate it with something that may have happened, or it triggers just stuff that you need to let go. It really didn't have anything to do with it. Nothing happened. It's just that the energy is flowing through you. So now that I'm aware of that in those moments, it's just like what I say to my open root. It's not my pressure. This is just the energy that's flowing through it. And those are the moments where Ho'oponopono have really come in handy, because it is triggering those memories to come up to the surface, which happens to anybody, whether you're emotionally defined or not. But I don't have to associate it with something that's happened outside of me.
Right, exactly. And so that's a wisdom you're coming up with, and you keep seeing that because you're defined emotionally. So
and it helps when it is like you say, when you bring the awareness, it kills it. It doesn't quite do that with the emotional wave, but in my investigation, I have learned that if I don't get all hung up in my mind about it, the emotional wave really does pass quicker than prolonging it, because I'm all stuck in my headspace.
Right, exactly.
And more emotions are coming up to the surface, and then it becomes a roller coaster. But it was a huge relief when I found this out, because there's probably a lot of people out there that are misdiagnosed, with either anxiety or depression, and they're just having an emotional wave, or they may be magnifying someone really close into their life.
Think of how much PTSD is attributed to, I've had a bad emotional experience and I've held on to it.
I don't know. Let me investigate. That's a good awareness. But from a PTS victim myself, I would have to dig deeper into that, because if you're going to get PTSD, or you're, to that level with the emotions, it's pretty much really traumatic.
Yeah,
so,
right, exactly. So the point of the whole solar plex center, that it is waking up, that it is a neural network, the whole point of it is to point out it is becoming quickly, and it has been for hundreds of years, but it's now truly awakening in our lifetime, is a third awareness. Humanity has operated on two awarenesses: the spleen, which makes us survive, and the mind, which has memory and can articulate. So we can survive, we can think. And we slowly, over 5,000 years, started to feel deeply. And now in the past couple hundred years, boom, the body expanse opened up into these 9-centered vehicles that we occupy, instead of the 7-centered vehicles we were before. And the genetic spiral moved up into communion, and Gregg has found a way to make peace with the choices he's made in communion, following his spirit, making his love move in a right direction. Now, any being doing that is essentially surrendering to their design more so than not. And the channels in him, the 3 channels down at the bottom, make it so that 54 up to 32, this is just a tribal supportive. Gregg is always trying to support the tribe to protect its continuity so that it does not fail and go extinct. I mean, that's wired in him. And if you've seen any of his recent talks, he's pretty much, going through much of the stuff it is to survive. It's instinctual. He can smell it. He can smell a rat. He can smell a bad idea. Gates, and it's driven. It is driven to succeed. It wants to drive up the ladder. It wants to move up the success quotient. And it's not just material, but it can be. But it's just about making the continuity of the tribe be successful. And in this case, it's the tribe of the people who would watch him and the Americans. And actually, for him, it's the world tribe, the human tribe. He's pointed that out. 38 up to 28, the one in the middle, from the spleen up to the spleen down to the root. This is the channel of struggle, a design of stubbornness. So now Gregg doesn't show it that much on the outside as he's broadcasting. Why would he? He's come to the purpose that struggle brings. Struggle brings purpose. So by the time we see him, he's airing out the struggle that went beforehand.
Right.
He's broadcasting and universalizing that, because that's what a 3-5 does. It finds it, it bumps into it, and then it universalizes it. That's the fifth line, is the heretic that brings the new thing, that it can universalize it to the world. And people project on him to do that. So he goes through his struggle process, and that's probably very much an internal process for him. It's not like he wears it on his sleeve. I'm struggling, life is so difficult. That could be an aspect, but Gregg stubbornly says, no, I'm not listening to that. I'm doing this. I'm doing this. I figured it out to be this way. It fights for a purpose. This has no purpose. I'm going to fight for something else. This government job, or whatever it is I'm in, you know what? This is killing my sense of the purpose for which I'm driven. I want a new process to start that I can really dig into to mature all the way through. I'm now keynoting his channels. You add this channel on the outside, and you get the channel of judgment, an insatiable fire to correct that which is wrong. And it's not judgmental as it relates to making it personal. And I've seen Gregg do this over and over again. It's impersonal, collective, logical judgment. It's like, hey, this is worth challenging, and it brings the great challenger. So he's got all these channels here. So he's driven to find the struggle that he's going to fight for. And when that comes, boy, will he challenge the results. He will challenge the authority. He challenged the authority right out of the old job into the new one. And it's a design to find so correctively. And because of that Sun Earth, 52 and 58 on the personality side, I'm going to get to these right now. 52 says, and it's his son, 52, line 3, controls. It's about, this is keeping still, the gate of stillness. And it's not stillness of sitting still. It's sort of stillness in your being such that you're not distracted. The gate of fending off distraction so that you can be still enough to focus. It's a design to be focused and concentrated. That's what it's designed to get to that. It's external enforcement of inaction. It's the ability by its very nature to understand restraint with the potential acceptance to use that period to redefine strategies. This is a whole sentence saying that, in short, it's the energy for the acceptance of inaction. Think about most people. I'm not acting. I'm in inaction. I'm not doing anything. He has that pressure sometimes. There's no question. But just as much, he's like, no, I'm sitting still. I'm trying to mature a process. Let me keynote all these channels now. When he's sitting still, driven to basically be still of spirit enough to focus. Right? If you're multitasking, you can't focus. Right? If you're sitting still and you're multitasking in your brain and you're letting everything rob you of your vitality, then you still can't focus. Full on, just a form of keeping still, like a mountain. The mountain that holds the riches of the secret yet remains still. That's how I would word that. And so you take this energy to fuel independent, this ability to, the energy for the acceptance of inaction, and you marry it up now to gate 58, line 3. And 58 is called the joyous, the gate of vitality. It's literally insatiably, joyously hungry for the next new thing that it can identify as either correct or in need of correction. As in, doesn't need to be challenged, is being challenged. As in, I've noticed a few things I can add to this. It's logical. Let me bring it to the understanding of the other. Let me bring it to the understanding of the other. That's what Gregg is always trying to do. Now, he's driven to do that. That's his Sun Earth on his personality side. And by the way, he totally would identify with all of this. Guarantees. So 58 is called electricity. And it says the energy to fuel independent stimulation, to find independent stimulation. Individuals whose electric vitality creates its own stimulation and is not dependent upon others. This is another reason I say this has got to be his profile, the 3-5. It's not dependent on others. So independent of the other, line 3 makes and breaks bonds as it needs to. It's aware of that. It's very mutative. It sustains, guaranteed to sustain, guaranteed to be an anarchist when need be, guaranteed when it need be, and tear down an old foundation to leave room for a new. So I put it all together, and that old job school situation that he was in, that he left for all of this, would be something he was driven to do with an insatiable joy and a vitality that said, I have to challenge these patterns. This government spook stuff is no good. It's not good enough. It doesn't fit my purpose. I'm going to fight for a new purpose. I'm going to challenge this. I'm going to correct it. And I'm driven to do so because the continuity of things that I see the way it's going is not best served by all of my logical service being here. I want a new process to start, go through the middle of, and maybe take me all the way home. I'm moving on. Broke the bond, did the thing. And he's a generator, so he can sustain at that. And he's got an active mind up there, the green to the throat, this channel of acceptance that is 17 to 62, whereby 17 comes up with logical opinions, and he's got gate 4 off of the ajna above it. And gate 4 off that ajna says, pointing up at the head center, it says, I have formulas. I got lots of formulas, and he's got it twice. They're in his Pluto. Gregg was designed to be in total resonance with his profile, his truth of coming up with the formulas that ultimately benefit society and the collective, and ultimately the tribe. So if I go to 4, line 5, let me just see, I should have done that one before. Oh, you're going to love this. Youthful folly in a defined center. Part of the whole logical process that guarantees he starts formulating things and comes up with logical opinions, whereby gate 62 has all the details and gate 16 says, I'm enthusiastic about all of that. It's all in harmony to his profile. Direct resonance and harmony to his profile. The general, the 5th line general that sometimes comes up with the new heresy and brings the new information in because they are determined to discover it. Not everyone is determined to discover it. Gregg is determined to discover it. Now, he's wired that way. He doesn't have a choice. So this job that he's in right now, in this career path, lets me know that somehow or other, something went right in his life, because he came up and basically started living out his way, because he's doing what is it he basically wants to do. So that's an awful lot, Jen. This choicelessness to be what he currently is. It's not like he couldn't have chosen other ways. And it's not like fate or destiny stepped in as it relates to this was a predestined place for him to be. No. What was written in, though, predestinedly, in a predestined way, was his genetic code was guaranteed to rise the behavior out of his body, his genetic biochemical vehicle that he walks around in, and create these things for himself through his actions and his particular manner of decision making. This was always going to be a path for him. He, again, choiceless, but to basically have something like this be his way. If he wasn't living out his design at all, no, he'd be miserable. He'd be miserable. Look at the open centers. And he's a split definition. He would feel terribly inadequate, which he has had feelings of. I'm not good enough. I'm not deep enough. I don't have enough depth. I want to be enthusiastic, but I can't tell what to be enthusiastic about. These would have been deep, types of melancholies in him that would have showed up because of this bridging gate he doesn't have. Gate number 48 coming off the top of the spleen.
Yeah.
That's the one openness that bridges his split. I have a one gate bridge. One gate bridges the split in my body graph. Gregg Braden, one gate bridges this split. If this is his chart, later on in the day, 16 goes away and then that's no longer true.
Right. This is the other chart.
Yeah, I'm not even going to pull that other chart up. I'm just staying on this one. I just keep referencing it. That's all. So gate 48 is the gate of depth, and gate 16 enthusiastically wants to tap into that depth. So, but it's missing. So the head trip becomes, sometimes I don't have enough depth. I better keep studying. I better keep looking. I better commune with others. I better run and hide. I better feel bad. I better find ways to not feel bad about that. I better confront this. I better challenge this. I feel driven to find something to do with that. It was one of his driving factors that drove his intelligence. But the 4 open centers, the open head center, so totally open, no activations. That means there's so many times in his life where suddenly there was too much stuff coming in. Just too much. And Gregg found himself trying to answer all the questions. One of the reasons that might have pulled him out of the previous academic way into this more enlightened, sort of opened up way that marries the two and brings them together would have been too many things. Asking him to answer too many questions he doesn't care about. He's a generator after all. How many times did a job tell him to do stuff he didn't want to do? He's splenic, so his spleen speaks through the generative box, constantly giving him this intuitive knowing that, this is no good for me. So he was hearing his body, get not like it, and sooner or later he couldn't stay. But his head would have made him been like, well, you didn't think about this, think about that. I'm thinking about too many things. And suddenly mental pressure, the formalizing doesn't quite work. And when that formalizing doesn't work, suddenly that which it is, which is seduction, that gate 4, line 5, as a truth, is about seduction. The energy to beguile and succeed despite ignorance. So basically, it's a freedom from not having the right formula at first. He's free from that. And the seduction of a line, it's a line 5, so that's the keynote for line 1 of them. So the seducer or the seduced, as it relates to ideas, allowing it's this potential to succeed through the understanding of others. It's his seductive ability to attract the people that then help him think about the things that do matter. He attracted the right forces just because of that resonance.
Yeah, the right people showed up exactly when they needed to show up.
Yes, and sooner or later, and even if the wrong people showing up at the right time show you the wrong way, and that's
true.
Still people. So,
yeah, there's always something to learn.
There's always something to learn, and so when I look at it all that way, he would have gone through a process whereby now, through meditation and various practices, mindfulness, and he would have come up with ways to slow down thinking about too many things that don't matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's who he's not. He's not here to answer all the questions. He's here to delve into and respond to what he feels like answering.
Right.
Open G center with a gate 10 is looking for love and direction and wanting to be with a love of self that is moving in the right direction. That gate 10 is the love of the self. It is our deepest ability to wake up to the love of our own self. And that love of self is part of the vessel of love that guarantees that all the energy we use primarily towards something we love. If we don't, we're not happy. So love becomes a force. If the humans are using their energy towards something they love, that means love is being sought after as the thing that is driving the force. The force can be measured through calorie units. The body expends its calorie units. Ergo, love is a force. It's a direct correlation. As soon as there's BTUs or calories, you can turn that into force. You can turn that force into momentum. That momentum can be transcribed into power. So it all transfers. He was on a deep journey to find the love of himself in communion with the other. That's what this does. And the head trip of it is he starts thinking about things that don't matter concerning himself with, do I love this or not? I don't feel like I do. I can't tell. It's not going right. But if you leave, you'll do this. So it would have been all kinds of things. Open ego, totally open ego. I have this totally open ego, no activations. And it's not knowing how to value yourself. So I can promise you the whole college experience and the whole experience moving into whatever that job thing was that he did, that was sort of corporate and government in nature, none of that would have made him feel good. He would have constantly been trying to, not feel less worthy. This would have been a head trip in him that no one ever really wants to admit to. Am I good enough? Did I do enough? Is this the right job for me? Should I be here? I can't tell. But if I leave, it's all that stuff that comes up with the ego that's not here to compete. And so in the beginning, he would have been trying to prove things until he realized I got nothing to prove. Again, a head trip you bring into somebody that if they solve that, good for them. But please realize the others, 65% of us, including me, don't have a defined ego. We all have this thing go through us in our own way. And it can make us want to compete when we don't care to, because we're trying to prove something. And then the open solar plex is just like, hey, that wave's going into me. I'm going to avoid that confrontation. This feels too confrontational. This feels too confrontational. I don't like how that feels. That didn't make me feel good. That's not friendly. So the theme on that would have been like, this isn't friendly. This isn't suit my idea of what would be community. This is not community friendly. This is not necessarily community friendly. Somehow, instinctually, he'd be driven to find out what's communally friendly so he can love himself, moving in the right direction with nothing to prove, where he stopped thinking about things that don't matter. And that's a process of joyous vitality whereby he can now correct all of that. So he's been on a pursuit to correct the things that didn't matter as it relates to him thinking about them.
Right.
That would have been something he would have done. And so the last thing I want to point to is this moon of his. This was how I chose. The one thing that moves throughout the day is the moon goes through 2 to 3 gates every single day. And it goes through all 6 lines of those gates. So all 64 hexagram of the Chinese I Ching, and all 6 lines of each hexagram, so all 384 total, make up the human experiential genetic matrix. As the moon rolls through, I read those lines and I'm like, does this sound more like Gregg, or does this sound more like Gregg? And so I kept going through, and I sort of settled on this one. You're going to love this. And he does this as he's talking. I see it all the time. This is my gate. I have a gate 16 line 2, so I might be biasing this. I can't tell. I could find out I'm hours off on his birth time, by the way, half a day off. I don't know, but enthusiasm that turns to skills and this great art of this channeling of energy into something collectively, understandably enthusiastic in him that he can share, to share the corrective challenge that becomes enthusiastic. And it's this sharpness to burst bubbles. It's a second line. So constantly called out of him is this sharpness to burst bubbles, this self-reliance and skill to judge objectively any claim of rhetoric, the expression of the skill to judge objectively. Wow. On the other side was the cynic. That's just constantly bursting bubbles. Constantly not liking what it heard, saying, oh, yeah, well, what about this? What about that? No.
I would say he definitely does that.
Yeah, so he's done his share of that, where he's gone through where he just became a little bit cynical about certain things. But mostly it turned into the skill of judging things objectively. And he does that all the time when he does his talk hour, where he's answering questions, and it's really good. So I landed with that. And then on the other side, 60, line 3, the moon on the other side. Conservatism. 60 is the gate of limitation, acceptance. The acceptance of limitation is the first step to transcendence. It's the key to transcendence. Once we accept we're limited, we can then it doesn't matter. So we therefore transcend it. And line 3 is conservatism, enlightened interest and self-interest that naturally handles restrictions and limitations, ensuring the identity and the security of the being. It's mutative because it's individual, so it's the energy to maintain identity and security despite limitations. So Gregg's limited at his first job through college. He keeps finding out more and more there's other stuff out there that's not in the academic arena, intelligence or otherwise, as it relates to that stuff. And more, he would have been driven by that moon to burst its bubble, transcend its limitation, and be himself throughout that process. Throughout that process. Notice the moons, just like the drives, just like the two truths in his Plutos, they resonate perfectly with, once again, his unconscious design side. The second one harmonizes with it, like my 2 harmonizes with your 5, Jen. And the 5th line is a direct resonance to it. So all his skill to valued opinions and to be able to challenge authority and be instinctually aware of what's worth challenging, have the right taste for all of that, is driven by the formulas that are seductive. And it's further driven by the moon that says, I'll overcome this limitation. I will simply sustain through your trying to limit me. And until he gets the hell out of Dodge. So again, the government job would have felt limiting sooner or later, and he would have needed to transcend that. Driven to burst a bubble enthusiastically. The man bounced out of that job. That's what happened. He went bouncing out freaking, whistling Dixie. And a good 3-5 would have done some investigating to find out what's it going to do next and stuff. And, he would have been called into this thing because that second line of the 16 gets called. So this is Gregg Braden in a nutshell. He's perfect.
Yeah, yes, I would say this hit him very well.
Dr. Enthusiastic with all kinds of creative ideas. Oh, I could keep going through Gates on all of this, but I think we've been through enough. No,
I think you did a fantastic job. That was Gregg Braden, guys.
Yeah, it was Gregg Braden. Yeah, definitely. So I'm not sure who we're going to do next, but I thought this was a good one. I was excited to do it.
No, I think it was an excellent choice and very interesting. I mean, everything that you pointed out is everything that I've been watching from him, and I've been watching him for a couple of years now.
Right. It's a nice feeling to know that he's in the role he's in, and we've just analyzed his design. It's like good generator. Just go do that.
I love what he has to share, and he is really hitting key areas. So it's not just one group of people that's listening to him. He kind of captures multiple different audiences, and that's what we need, because the information he is bringing needs to hit the collective. So,
and that beauty of that incarnation cross of his, that's exactly all collective, which is keynoted with sharing. He's guaranteed to share his logical understanding of the beautiful formulas he struggled so hard to get to in the first place. He's going to mature that process, and he's going to be supportive with all of that. That's just, I love it.
Love it too. We have a couple of comments that I would like to post. Shakti joined us, and I love what she said here. Beautiful being, his innovative nature can give great diversions that electrify everyone to the very core.
Indeed.
Catherine says that was well done. Great interpretation. Thank you.
Yep, that was our Gregg. Catherine, if either of you guys have a suggestion for the next one, you guys
let us know who you would like to see. Drop that down in the comments. If you haven't already, please make sure that you book your session with Dan, whether it's a single session, couple session, you want to get your children done. Learn more about who you are at a deeper level and how you navigate through this thing called life.
Indeed. I don't have a full plan for Sunday, but we may be doing another interview with Bree or with the couple. Josh and Sarah, so I'm not sure yet.
Wonderful. Yes.
It looks like we're doing an interview next on Sunday. So,
Well, very good. Looking forward to that. You guys know what to do. If you go and like the channel and you hit that subscribe button, you'll get alerted when we're going to go live next.
share
I
it
always
out.
post it about 24 hours ahead of time so you guys know what we're going to be covering. If you'd like to see a specific person, make sure to drop it down in the comments below. And with that said,
We're done.
we hope everyone has a beautiful evening, and we'll talk to you later.
See you later, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye.